Identify this bug. It just it looks like it doesn't really.
Hi, Victoria. Sorry, I'm going to try one more time. Hi, Victoria.
Hello.
Hi. I see that you're the first attendee. Welcome. I'm assuming you are new to the company.
Sorry?
Are you new to
Yes, this is my 4th day.
Oh,
I
wow.
started on Monday.
Oh, great. How's it going so far?
So far, so good.
Okay, great. So today, I'm going to wait for a few more people to join. I'll give it 5 minutes, but it may not be the best session to join. I hate to put it that straightforward. Basically, we'll be covering a more advanced area of Journey Creator. But on the plus side, you can see what we may or will recover next week. So the way we do it normally is that every week, or from now on, every week we have a basic session, which will cover the basic areas of Journey Creator, which you've probably begun to come familiar with. The week after that will be a more intermediate and a more advanced session. So yeah, if anything's confusing to you, or have you watched any of the videos? I doubt it, since you've only been there for 4 days. But have you seen any content on Johnny?
No. No. Actually, I was getting the
Oh, great.
digital coach.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I think
Yeah, sure.
will
I'll try
help.
my best to simplify it a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. So I'll just give it 2 more minutes, and then if no one else joins, we'll just start.
Okay.
Hey.
Let me ask some of the guys around me if they're joining the call.
Yeah, if Atanas is in your office,
Yeah, he's.
yeah, Atanas and yeah, it's probably Atanas.
I will ask him.
Cool, thank you.
Spoke with him, yes. I spoke with Raish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I showed her only one thing and she said that it's fine.
Oh, cool.
And but Ian said that it's not.
Ian says no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the length is a bit like you don't know what's in there, so it's hard to like approximate the length. But I mean, it is empty and it is like.
Yeah, the way you've configured it, it should work the way you configured it. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Okay, we'll get back to that one. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Hi, Atanas. Hello. No audio. Okay. Cool. So thanks for joining us, if you can hear me. I don't think there'll be any more attendees. Maybe a few more will join. So I will begin. Okay. So thank you for joining the session. I'm going to recap or see what we did last week. We managed to cover quite a lot actually in a short space of time. So let's return to our application. I think Atanas, if you can hear me or if you can reply in the chat, if you were on last week's session, just confirm that by saying yes in the chat. Because apart from that, we only have Gao, who was in the previous session. And based on that, we will continue with what we were doing before. Since Victoria is new, I will try my best to recap. Although for Victoria, I do recommend to join next week's session. It will be much more.
I will.
Yeah, it'll be much more easier, I can say, than what I'm about to show you. But yeah, feel free to listen in. At least you can get a grasp of how we build applications in general. So it'll be good. Cool. I'm going to switch back. Now, so we were. Okay. So we managed to actually build an application, as in a working application, in 2 hours, which is pretty good. As I mentioned before, the more you use this tool, the more easier it will be. For me, for example, personally, I'll say in order for me to build this, it wouldn't take more than 30 minutes. But for a client to build this with their existing software, it can take months. So the whole power of DXP is to quickly and easily configure a very simple or complex application. We actually even managed to connect to a third-party API as well. But today we'll just go over or enhance what you're seeing here. Okay, so as a recap, we have our application. It's called Weather App, which is great. I normally use this one. For those that are familiar, I apologize. But yeah, we have 4 features here. We've got the first one, which is look up weather. And we described a business feature as a goal in order for us to complete our journey. Inside our features, we can break them down into smaller building blocks called steps. And if you do remember, in this section here, we have our first step and only step in look at weather. And this step is to get the city weather for our location. We configured our step, and then we added a very simple request, which had 3 different parameters. We of course did this based on the API. Just to remind you, I'm going to visit the API quickly. And yeah, we had multiple different options. We chose the current weather. And
Fred, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but are you sharing your screen, because I'm not able to see it?
Apologies, Victoria. Let me share my screen. It's a bit embarrassing. Where is it? Okay, can you see it, Victoria?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, cool. Thankfully, the audio issues are sorted this week. I've chosen a different TV. So yeah, so we visited Open Weather Map. We had a free API. We sent a GET request, which is very easy and very straightforward. Based on the API call displayed here, we had a parameter that we needed to configure in order to return a minimal amount of information on our location. That parameter was, of course, our location. And we did this by using query parameters or request parameters, which took us to another area in in Journey Creator called Integrate. Personally, I say this is the more interesting part, where we actually mapped data from our model to our request. We did the complete opposite to receive the response. Once we've done that, this was the result. So I'm going to preview, and let's see if it's still working. Hopefully no one's touched it. Cool. So based on our application flow, the first feature that we should run through will be lookup weather. But actually, rather than doing it on the back end, I'm going to do it on the Lumen side. If you do remember, Lumen is the front-end client that we use to help demonstrate, integrate with our journeys. Lumen can be installed or eventually installed as a package to any other client that will be running Angular, for example. So they can easily configure their journeys to run and connect to the Journey Creator backend. I do have a demo called House Kitchen, which I've been working on, which I do need to run so you can see a bit more of a realistic journey. Just give me 1 minute, I need to run this. House Kitchen is just an elaboration, I can call it, on the Lumen client. A couple of us, as in product specialists, have been working on enhancing a demo that could be used for future purposes. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. So, question for Victoria. Have you heard of Lumen before?
Nope.
No. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. So what I'm about to show you is a Angular client. I'm pretty sure you are familiar with Angular, are you?
Not really.
Okay. So JavaScript.
Yeah, a bit.
Okay. Okay. So I'm assuming you're not technical, or are you technical? Or
I have been a manual tester before that, so
okay. No
yeah.
worries. Okay. So basically, Lumen can be used as a demo to demonstrate how journeys can run on a client's platform. So what I'm doing now is actually running the local server, so you can have a look. And for example, this client can be implemented on a phone, a tablet, or a website. And we can show you how easily it is used to configure or change the journey. Not ready yet.
Is this the code or like this one? What is it?
So this house kitchen, this is a development code for Lumen. Not for Lumen, but using Lumen. So we've basically built new components and new features, which will be hopefully reinvested back into the Lumen platform.
So these are templates or bits?
These are templates.
They are templates.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the right word. So Victoria and Gal, basically in Journey Creator, you can configure templates, which you've probably seen. But this is how a template is built. We can show you how it matches and what needs to be in the right place. But to make it a bit more easier, it should be ready now. What you're seeing here is actually a completely different application, as in probably the largest application on Journey Creator at the moment. This is a combination between 3 different proof of concepts, the broadband journey being BT, as in British Telecom, the SIM-only journey being Dixon's Car Phone, which is previous client, and the last journey on here being AT&T, which is basically an upgrade journey for choosing different propositions. I can run through this journey, but to make it a bit more easier, I'm going to switch to the journey that we were working on last week. So if you do remember, in order for me to view this journey and to show the journey on here, all I need to do is point the Lumen client to the right environment. What do I mean by environment? In Journey Creator, we have multiple different environments that we can publish our applications to. One way of figuring out which environment that we are currently on is by preview. So I'm going to switch to preview. And if you do remember, preview is used to see or to view our new changes. Now, once we previewed, we can view the network tab, and then we can see our environment URL. If you are familiar with Lumen, what you'll do is copy this URL, which is our App Engine URL, and then we will switch back to Lumen, wrong way. I'm going to find the right location, which will be in the right file. Ignore the details, it's basically just replacing the URL. Okay, currently we are on a different environment here. I'm going to switch to the environment that we're currently on, hit save. It will refresh, and then now we should see our application. Cool. All right. See House Kitchen refreshing. Great. Now, the configuration here is based on where we were last week. To prove that, I'm going to go to the first feature. I'm going to go to look at weather. Click on Get City Weather. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to move this tab closer. All right, so we've got current location. Not the same as App ID or my location, but to prove that, we did eventually also add translations. To view that, I'm going to go to our language. And again, I may be jumping ahead here, but it's just a summary. As you can see on the right hand side, we have our translations for our journey. Now, for current location, we have my location. On the front end, this will be my location. So to prove the journey still works, let's try it. Victoria, you are in Sofia. So we'll enter Sofia, and they will probably be using metric. We will use your age. I do not know what age is there. I apologize, I'm going to remove it. Don't worry, I won't ask you for your age, Sophia. I'm going to hit next. And then we'll see what will happen.
Yeah, I've never asked someone what's the weather going to be like, and they say it depends how old you are.
Okay. All right, so great example there. It didn't work the first time, so we can switch back to our, I can say, debugging area, which is basically preview. I'm going to preview the same journey and we'll see what will happen, so we can see more information. So we choose our first feature, and then we do exactly the same thing. We'll enter Sophia, and then metric or imperial, forget the age, submit. Oh, we get a 500 error. Now, at the moment, with this current version of Journey Creator, errors can be a bit ambiguous. As far as I know, there will be a feature implemented to enhance error debugging. A 500 error is very generic. I'm assuming, based on my experience, again, it may be different with everyone, but I'm assuming based on the API that I've connected to, the way I've formatted the location is a problem here. So I'm going to do Sofia, Bulgaria, because it's probably got multiple different locations called Sofia. I'll do Sofia, Bulgaria, to be precise. Metric, submit. Nope. Okay, completely wrong. Okay, maybe it will, oh, yeah. So I didn't do this on purpose, but we are on the incorrect work stream. I'm going to switch back to where we were, and then we'll try it again. You can see work streams as versions, but work streams aren't really versions. The best way to see work streams is a version of a work stream rather than a version. But yeah, we'll get into that later on. So we'll preview, look at weather.
Like a branch, no?
Yeah, like a branch, yeah. We'll choose. Yeah. Cool, great. All right, so that worked, and the way that we proved that worked, we received a 201, which is basically a created or successfully created resource, for example. But yeah, no errors. And the result of that is that we have this here. Now, we didn't go through this last week, and this is what we're going to do now. Basically, based on the result that we returned, we calculated the total amount of daylight hours between sunset and the sunrise of our location. In other words, the whole reason for this is because we are exploring another feature called business rules, where we can configure our pretty much anything. In this situation, we've done a quick example of how we can calculate. But for the next 10 minutes, this is exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to switch back to where we were. I may need to, don't know. Could you remember the work stream that we were on? Was it weather 2? Actually, it probably has a date on there. No.
I think it was with the humidity, to be honest. It wasn't with daylight.
Was it?
I don't think it was with daylight.
It wasn't with daylight?
No.
Ah, okay. Okay, cool. Not that one. I think it was this one, right? Let me check the date. Yeah, 7 days ago. Yeah, it was this one. Cool. All right, so to begin, we'll do another brief exercise on business rules. Now, to remind you, we have mapped probably 3 properties, if I remember. We'll check these now. Weather, edit, map data. So yeah, Victoria, this is where we map data. This is a very powerful area of Journey Creator. It makes it very easy for you to configure REST or SOAP calls between various different APIs. But yeah, for the request, we mapped our location because we need to, and then we mapped our app ID because we needed to authenticate ourselves, and then we also mapped the units just to show you we can also use optional parameters. And then our response, which is optional. Let's see what we got back. So we edit our service, map, response, and then we chose to receive temperature, humidity, and pressure. Now, for this exercise, we're gonna add 2 new properties, and that will be sunset and sunrise. So, Gal, could you tell me what I need to do next on here? We have our current model, which is pretty small, but we do need to map 2 new properties.
So go to data editor.
Yeah.
Now to the request, sorry, to the response, we need to new property.
Yeah.
Yeah, sunrise.
And which type would it be?
String.
String?
Oh, sorry, it's time. So number.
Number.
Or, yeah, number.
Yeah. So it'll be a timestamp, which, yeah, so it'll be a number. And then we'll just do the same for sunset. Oh, all right. So what's next?
Now integrate.
Cool.
Yeah, this one, click and then on weather and edit. Map data.
Response, yeah. And then very easy, right?
Yes.
We drag and drop. As a reminder, if I was to drag another, we may receive a bug here, but if I was to drag country to sunset, it's not going to work because they are using 2 different types, and this will be fixed. What I need to do, unfortunately, now is start again because I can't remove this. So I'm going to cancel. So normally what should happen is if I map the wrong type, it should literally clear it for me. But there is a bug at the moment which has been seen where I need to, it wouldn't clear, so I need to start again. So imagine if you had hundreds of mappings and then you mapped the wrong type, you got to start again.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's no casting.
No.
And quick getting it into to one field.
You can. You can. I can show you that. That'll be part of transforms as well. We can use that with transforms, which is a pretty good reason to do that. But we'll cancel this now. Cool. Map data response. Oops. Great. Save.
So can you turn to the map?
Yeah.
So basically I can take country and also, no, sorry, it's all ints.
Yeah, so some of these I actually cannot map. I'll show you why. So if I was to map the weather in this weather array, and the array based on the purple color, it wouldn't let me map it. I'll show you why. If I was to map weather to ID, oh, and by the way, you can also map the same response to the request because there are saved, if that makes sense. So you can replace your request with a response method if you want it. If that makes sense. No? Okay. So remember how we mapped my location to queue in our request for query?
Yeah.
For example, on the response, if we didn't want my location in our state, we can replace it by doing a response mapping from our response to my location. If that makes sense.
Well, can you think of an example where that was needed in real life?
You can do it. Okay, so let's say if you want the user to enter their location on a step, but for some reason you don't want the user to enter the location on the next step. In some sort of application, the user will need to have a different location, but you don't want the user to enter that location.
Maybe if, for example, like here you're struggling sometimes to find the city that it recognizes.
Yeah, and it pulls it for you.
Let's say your API does pull it through, but there's a standard way.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and you can replace it with that. Yeah, as in there shouldn't be any restrictions on that. That's a good example, actually. I couldn't think of one. But yeah, so we received an error because we are mapping outside of an array. Basically, with mappings in Journey Creator, we need to map to the same type. So we can't map from an array to an object. An array needs to map into an array before we map to that array. If that makes sense. Yeah, cool. All right, so I'll cancel that and then we will see the result. App Builder Preview. Great, so we have our two timestamps, sunrise and sunset. So how do we actually calculate the total amount of daylight hours in London or Sophia? Now this is going to be your job, Gal. I know you've been playing.
Sunset from sunrise.
Yeah, you started already. Okay, but before that, what do we need to do? What do we need to add, as in to our
Business rule?
Yeah, we could do it on the response if you want. Cool. So we add a business rule, or do we do it on the response, or do we do it on the request? The rule. Response. Because the reason why I asked that question, if a user was to receive a response, once the user receives a response, the calculation may not have been done, if that makes sense, if you was to add it to response. So basically, if you remember, rules will be executed on the request or the link submission. So we do prefer to do any rules before the result, if that makes sense. So we'll do it on get weather info because once the user has posted, as in created, it will execute that rule. And then the response can be used for calculations.
Okay.
Yeah. So cool. So we'll go to get weather info, and then we click on edit, and then new rule. So we add a new service. We've got 1 and 2. Not bad. All right, so I'll call that one calculate daylight hours, which is business rule. Yeah. And then new rule. All right, so Gal, it's your job. So you started already, which is great. We subtract.
So math.
Math, yep.
And the second one. Minus. And then variables. So 2 variables. 1 to the left hand side of the right hand side.
Cool. And then which one's the first one?
Sunset.
Good. Any reason why?
Because we don't want
we want time to be backwards, right? Yeah. Cool. I mean, yeah, sunrise. Sunrise. Sunset is a larger number. Because yeah. Oops. Those G's. Yeah, so we subtract the smaller number from the large number.
Unless you're in Finland in July.
Oh yeah, unless that.
So maximum between this and 0.
Cool, and then what next?
Okay. No.
Shouldn't we do? Previously, you couldn't let me do spaces, but now they fixed it. But yeah, so we'll call this one calculate daylight hours. Okay. Not sure. Yeah. All right. So we have a new value now. So we have the difference between sunset and sunrise.
No, you have set inside.
We do, and then that'll be the last thing we do. But great.
Why is it state and not set?
Which one? Not this one. Okay. So item will be a local variable. So you can imagine this as a canvas. So your calculations can be done on here. Item can be anything. It can be anything that you set to a local variable. And for example, I can create a new item and then call it example 1. Actually, let's call it location. And then if I was to use set item, I can choose that new variable that I just created for whatever purpose that you wanted. And then you can apply the value of that variable to your rule. But yeah, I mean, we can even use it here, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to get rid of it.
So you can put some blocks on this page, like you say, use it as a canvas to do something that you then feed into your bigger
exactly.
Right. Yeah. So this can be like, here, for example, you can set sunrise to this, and then
we could do that. We can even, if you wanted to divide sunrise by 2 or something, or we can use that item block. Cool. But we'll get rid of 1 and 2. Cool. So we've got the set state. We'll need one more math block, because that number will be quite large for hours.
Divide it.
Yep. 24. Okay.
No, I don't. No.
Which is not cheating. Victoria, you can help me here actually before Gal gives us the answer.
86,400.
Cool. Now that will be the amount of seconds in a day. Can we divide that a bit more?
So what are you're getting the
hours?
Hours, yeah.
So what are the values in? They're in seconds, right?
Yeah. So imagine if we had a value, which is in seconds, and then we need to eventually retrieve hours out of that value. As in, how do we divide it? So you're 24 times 60.
24 times 60.
Yeah.
Okay. 1440.
Cool. You can divide that a bit more.
Is it just 60 times 60?
Yeah.
3,600.
That's correct. 60 times 60.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the hours. Okay.
Got it in seconds, divided by 60 to get minutes, divided by 60 again.
Yeah. But I mean, you're close. So we'll choose 3,600. Cool. Now we can. Anything else? No? I mean, we're pretty much done here, but we can do one more thing. Well, we'll see the result first. So what we do, we'll drag this in, and then we'll basically, which property?
Where you want to take on it.
So what we forgot to do actually is create.
Cast it to int.
We can do that, but we can also set a value directly to the property, but we forgot to build that property. Now, one way to do this is either you click OK and then save, but it may not be valid. So let me get rid of this. I'm going to choose any other property rather than resuming from the beginning. We'll choose my location for now. I'm going to hit save. So my fault, I forgot to create the result property. I'm going to call this one data hours. There'll be a number. Cool. And then I'm going to return to my rule. Okay, interesting. So quick highlight here. Sometimes you may see this error or message. We currently have a lock on this resource. It basically means that there is a passive locking feature enabled in Journey Creator. And the reason for that is to avoid clashes when people are working on the same resource or another name for resource with step. This feature is implemented in other areas, for example, inside your application flow, and also while editing a feature. But if you see this, all you need to do is remove or release the lock by clicking on the button. And it should work, but it didn't. So I'm going to switch between two steps. And then, yeah, your lock will disappear. But anyway, so let me re-add it. So rules. Okay, now to avoid starting from the beginning, I chose a different property, but now that we've created the correct property, I'm going to choose data hours so we can see the result. Click OK, and then hit save, and then preview again to see how it changes. Right, so we choose Sophia. I don't think I need to put Bulgaria. Metric. Great, no errors. And then what we get here, where is it? It should be here somewhere. Great. So now we get 13.7 hours of daylight in Sophia, which is amazing. Victoria, I'm jealous. But yeah, so what we can do actually, we can actually round this. We can round up and we can also round down. I think in the past, another client did ask if we can add custom blocks to Blockly. I think that feature has been considered. For example, they wanted to round it to 3 decimal points or 4 decimal points, depending on their application. But for now, I'm going to briefly enhance this rule so we can show you another block. So edit. Great, and then what we need to do here is literally view the math block group, and then there should be a round option. And then we take our calculation out, we connect it to round, we drag it back, and then we can also alter the rounding options where we have round in general, as in just round to the nearest decimal point. Sorry, to the round into the nearest whole number, or we can round up, or we can round down. We'll just choose round up, and then OK, hit save, get rid of that, preview. Oops, we'll look up. Which is Malaga. I don't know why it's on my list, because I went there in January probably, but yeah. Yeah, which is metric, submit. Cool, so it's very humid in Malaga at the moment, 82%. They've got temperature rounding to 18 degrees, which is amazing. Much better than London at the moment. But we've rounded it to 12 daylight hours. So yeah, that's basically an example of how you can use multiple different blocks in Blockly, which is a tool from Google that we've implemented here to create complex or potentially complex business rules. Okay, Victoria, have you got any questions so far? I'm assuming you have like 50, since you're probably new to this.
Not so far. It was quite clear explanation.
Cool. Okay, great. Cool. So we'll move on. I'm going to show you what we can cover next. All right. So since we've been mapping, what we can do is explore another area called transforms. Now, transforms, again, elaborates or enhances the mapping feature. Transforms can be used with business rules. So it can be very flexible. But yeah, a business may use transforms to transform our input, as in data coming in, or to transform the output, data coming out. You can think of hundreds of different scenarios where a user may use transforms. One good example is if you were to, you can literally capitalize someone's name, or you can format the input from the user before sending it to a server. Thankfully, with Blockly, we can do that. To show you an example, I'm going to show you how they are done. Now, a better way to transform, as in for demo purposes, will be done on the response. So data coming back to our model. And to do that, I'm going to click on Edit. We'll click on Edit, not here. Oops. So we click on map data, and then we click on response. Great, so we have our existing mappings, which is great. But what if I wanted to transform? Okay, cool. I'm actually gonna break a map in here. Well, actually, no. I'm gonna show you how we can map to the same property as the request. So we have a description, we need a string. It'll be a lot easier if I do this. We can't map inside the array because there isn't no matching array in our model. But we have a string here. So we've got name. Okay, I don't know what will be returned, but we'll see. So we can map name to my location. And then just to show you what will happen if we map it to a request property, let's see what will happen. Cool, so what do we get? Oh great, we get the same name. Okay, so what if I wanted to make this uppercase rather than capitalized? I need to add a transform. So what I need to do is return back to the mapping. Unfortunately, there's no shortcut. So we click on that, map data, response. All right, so in order for me to add a new transform, okay, two ways to do it. We can either highlight our output as in the end of the mapping, and then you'll see a plus button giving us the option to add a new transform. Or what I do prefer to do is click it from the main menu, which isn't that really clear. On the top, what we have here is a button called transforms. And then this will be a global version of the transforms for your mapping. What do I mean by that? Is if you add a transform through here, you can add it for some reason to any property here. If you do it through the property itself, then you can only add it to the property, if I'm correct, but I may be wrong. But we'll see. So we'll add it from here, and then we'll click on Add New. So we'll call this one capitalized name. So uppercase name. Cool. All right, so name contains invalid character. I think we cannot add spaces for some reason. Okay, great. All right, so we have two options here. We have an input and we have an output. Whenever we do a transform, it requires an input, and we do need to add this, otherwise we'll get an error. We can choose between a type of input. So we have selected name, or we haven't yet, but we choose a name, and then we can choose property. We can name it, and then we can choose the type of property. If you do remember, name will be a string, of course, and then we choose string. And then now we want to transform it to an output, as in our output in our model. We've mapped it to my location, which is also a string, so I'm going to add output. So we choose property, and then we can call this one location. We choose a type, which will be a string. It's giving us different options for types, because I'm assuming in the future we can map or transform from a different type. We can use toInt, or however Groovy does it. And Groovy is basically the scripting tool that could be used to write custom code rather than using the UI tool. But anyway, we have an option as in our input and output. Now I'm going to switch to editor, or I do need to, I need to hit save. Cool, and what do we get? Error. It is not possible to transform or to save a transform without Blockly model. Now that's even better, because now we have our familiar tool where we can use a canvas to build our room. Now, compared to any other area in Journey Creator, we have a new block group called input and output. And when I select these two, we've got location and name. I mean, it reads just has coding reads and right to left. So we have our input and our output. Our output will be location, input will be name, which basically means we need to add something in between these two. And we've got different options here, but for demo purposes, we'll just choose a very easy one. We'll choose text, and then we'll choose to uppercase. And then, yeah, we just drag it, place it in between, and then we hit save. And we're not done yet. We've added a transform. Ideally, there should be a prompt showing you that you've done that, but one thing you need to do next is apply the transform. So how do we do that? We select our output for our transform. And this is where we actually apply it. So we have a plus button, and then we have a search box allowing us to search what we just added. If I do remember, I've called this one uppercase. Yep, there you go. And then we apply. Now, once we apply, we have a purple dot confirming that we've applied the transform to our output. Great. Now, are we done yet? Let's see. So we click on that, but we're not done. One final step is to specify the output. Because we can have multiple outputs and multiple inputs, we have an option to select it, which we do need to do. So we choose location, which is our ADM property. Sorry, this is our custom output property. We apply it, and then now we should be all done. I mean, technically there should be prompts confirming the steps of how to add a transform, but I'll feed that back. But for now, I'm gonna save. Cool, so let's see what will happen. As a recap, we have mapped name to my location on the response, so it shouldn't really affect what we sent as a request. But yeah, let's see what will happen. So we preview, and then we view the state. we'll have a look up. I'm going to give a completely different location, which is Miami. Units will be Imperial because it's America. We hit submit. And then, yeah, I can't convert that to Celsius. I don't know what that is, but it seems pretty hot. But what do we have here? We have my location in all capitals, confirming that we've added the transform and we've applied its effects. So that's a very easy way to map a 1-to-1 ratio transform, I can say it. We can also map multiple inputs to an output. We can have multiple outputs from one input. We can break them apart. But yeah, it can get pretty complex, or it can be very simple. But that just shows the power of transforms in Journey Creator. By the way, transforms was added in the 4.1 release. Okay. Now, where were we? All right. So, Gal, did we cover workstream importing and exporting, as in creating a new workstream? Did we do that? I don't think we did because we are on the default workstream. But do you remember it? No.
I know it.
You know, okay. Okay. Great. So work streams, you can see them as versions, you can see them as branches. But let's say if I wanted to create a copy of our current progress. And one way to do that is so you got two ways to do that. You can either click on the green button to view our work stream list. Or let's say if we were in data editor, and you wanted to do it the long way, we can switch to App Builder, and then we can click on version, and then we have the Workstreams tab where we can configure and add new workstreams. Okay, so I'm going to create a new copy of this workstream because I'm at a good point. For example, if I did make a mistake, I can now switch to an earlier version of my work. And how do we do that? You probably guessed it. We click on new workstream, and then we can call this one version 2 to make it easier semantically. We do need to add a source, so we have 3 different options here. We can optionally add a description, and we can optionally add a type. Types will be great if other people were collaborating on your workstream. So for this one, I'm going to click development. It doesn't really do anything. It's more of a visual cue to any other user of your application. Okay, I'm going to hit source, workstream, parent, default. Now, we have a parent-child relationship here with workstreams. If you do delete the parent, you may, or probably guarantees, your child will be deleted too. And you don't want that. So be careful when deleting workstreams. Make sure you're not deleting the parent because they have a relationship. So if you do create a new workstream called version 2, but delete the default workstream, which you can't, but if you had added a new workstream and you deleted a parent, all of your children or your child workstreams will be deleted too. You can also import a file, which means that, of course, we can export our workstreams, and we can also do a git pull from a Git repository. All right, so I'm going to choose workstream. We only have one option here. So it'll be parent. I'm going to hit save. And then it should, so we switch automatically to our new workstream, which is great. Now, default will be in its own state. It wouldn't change, as in it will be different towards version 2. But that's basically how we create a workstream. To export your workstream, we'll do exactly the same thing. We click on version 2. And then we export, it will be exported to a zip file, or you can push it to a Git repository. So we'll do it to a zip file just to show you how small it is and to show you what's inside of it. Generate a name, it's only 11 kilobytes, but if I expand it, all you will see is, oops, did it again. All you'll see is JSON files, which is basically what we use to for our application, which is very good because it can be used in a lot of different ways. Cool. All right, let me switch back. So yeah, that's basically a workstream. So deploy. Now, let's say if we had a, so we're in the right area actually. So version, as in this version tab, has different options here. We've just explored the work streams. Actually, before I show you deploy, we've got two other tabs here called App Engine Model. App Engine, if you do remember, is a runtime environment where it validates links on our journey, as in returns or validates to the user if a create link or an edit link is available. App Engine will handle all of that. We can export the model for various different reasons. Translations model will be translations. If you do add translations to your model, they will be displayed here. Okay, but one other option we have here is called deploy. And we also have a test deployment tool where we can deploy to different environments. I think for this environment, as in the UAT environment, we have two different additional environments that we can deploy to. As you've seen here in the drop down, we have EE1 and EE2. These are just examples. For example, they can be QA, they could be UAT, test, release candidate, anything you can choose here. Eventually, depending on your deployment, you will have different deployment options here. But to prove and to show you how this works, I'm going to deploy to EE1. You can see deployment as similar to being, you can see deployment as the same functionality as preview. Preview is basically, when I click on preview, I'm previewing to this environment or this App Engine instance, 1003. And deploy will be seen as a similar way. I can deploy it to that environment and then it doesn't return the URL, but I figured it out because of DevOps. Thank you, DevOps. They're giving me the correct URL that I can use in my Lumen application, for example. So I'm going to deploy our current application to EE1. Then I'll show you the how response, as in the result. So you can see the updated model. Cool, so we hit deploy. And that was pretty quick. We get a success message, which is awesome. To prove that, I'm going to switch, or actually I'm going to show you the deployment in the URL. So I'm going to undo this, copy, redo it so I can show you for demo purposes. But yeah, if I enter this into the browser, what we should see here is information of our current application. Great. To prove that, I'm going to deploy another application very quickly. So we've got example, we've got weather lookup. All right, so let's say if I wanted to deploy a much larger application. Let's see if it actually updates. So House Kitchen, massive application, multiple different business features. I'm going to deploy this to EE1. So we go on version, and then we select deploy, and then we choose EE1, deploy. Probably going to take longer because of the size of the application. Cool, and now it's deployed. All right, so let's refresh. Great, now we have more here, as in a completely different application. But that just proves that deployment can be done through the version tab. Okay, so we go channels. Now, clients, for example, especially telecommunication clients such as AT&T, Verizon, Vodafone, they will want to use multiple different channels such as web, mobile, store, retail, and they will want to use that with their journey. So how do we actually do that? How do we actually configure channels in Journey Creator? One way to do that is very simple, and I'll show you how to do that. But once we've done that, we can use it in multiple different areas of Journey Creator. For example, we can configure channels in our business rules. We can say this channel can only be shown for whatever purpose. We can also use channels for different translations. We can also use channels for different application flows. Channels can be a powerful tool that can be used to show different information depending on a string. So we can name the channel mobile, and then we can apply a rule to that mobile channel to only show a step if the channel matches mobile. A great example would be trading. Well, all phones have cameras nowadays, but what if you was viewing the trading application on a website? Not every laptop, not every desktop has a webcam. So we can disable a image capture step for that channel because not every user will have that functionality. And we can do that using preconditions and a channel. So to create a new channel, I'm gonna go to the settings area, which is in the top. Victoria, basically this is where we configure the global settings for our environment rather than our project. And channels will be in data. So we've got tags, we've got rows. 1 and 2 isn't functional at the moment. It will be soon. But channels, we've got 1, 2, and 3 and test 1. I'm gonna create a new channel called mobile. And then we hit save. Now, how do we test this? We can test it in preview. We can also test it in the front end using Lumen. All right. So let's say if I'm going to create a completely new application here, or I can use the same application. Let me use the same application at the same time. Not that one. Cool. So what if we wanted the response to only show if the channel is on mobile? How do we do that? We can create a precondition. So I'm actually going to break. So by the way, when you see the connection between 2 different steps, you probably guessed it. That's the order that you want the steps to run in. But if for some reason you have a precondition on a step, you wouldn't want to strictly direct the flow of your feature. So I do recommend to break it apart, which gives the user an option to choose a step depending on the precondition. In other words, I'm gonna dissociate get weather info with response because we are adding a precondition. I'm gonna break this by selecting the cross, and then I'm gonna hit save. Cool. Response needs a new precondition. So I'm going to hit edit, integration rules, create. And again, the reason why we are adding a precondition to a create rule is because without a create rule, the user will not see the step. Without a create rule, the user will not have the ability to post information. But if you do want the user to post information based on a channel, we need to add a precondition. So precondition to the create rule and then new expression. Okay, so we'll call this one if user is not on their mobile phone. Or if user is on their mobile phone, actually. Great, so Gal, can you help me here? Which block group has channels and which one would you assume that has a channel? So choosing a channel.
Please scroll down. Object?
Object, no. Variables. So yeah, variables would be references to pretty much anything that you create. And that will be, well, it should be here. Oh, there you go. So business context channel will be that block. So if, okay. Let's try this. So if business context, should I back? It doesn't really make sense to me, but let's try it. So if, yeah, it's not gonna work. We need to use an equals because it needs to validate to true. So if user is, there you go. For some reason, you need to use the business context channel block. But yeah, if channel is equal to channel mobile, then we can see the response, basically. Cool. Okay. We hit save. And what do we need to do next? No, we don't need to do anything. So we hit preview. Oh, we do. So in Lumen, the Lumen preview, we do need to simulate the UI client because we aren't on the UI at the moment, as in Lumen. Well, we are technically, sorry. So we've got Lumen preview in the back end, but we aren't really on the front end. So to simulate that, we need to choose a channel in the settings, and then you toggle, simulate UI client, and then we choose a channel. We choose mobile. We can even choose the language, but we'll leave it as that. We hit save, and then we will restart your journey. We'll have a look up. Okay, there you go. We've got a response here. And the whole reason why we can see it without submitting it is because we haven't validated against user information. We've basically pre-populated the value based on the rule, as in we've done it here in the UI client option list. If a user was to enter information before seeing that step, then you wouldn't have seen that straight away. To prove that, what we're going to do now, we'll switch it to a different channel so you can see our available steps. So we hit save, save and restart, available, weather lookup. Yeah, now we don't have response because we've basically validated against that rule. Our channel isn't mobile, so we cannot see the step. So that's an example of how channels will run in the front end. We can also use a channel for translations. You can probably guess how that will work, but I can show you how it will be done. So we visit translations. I'm pretty sure did we add translations before last week? No? If not, no problem, we can add a new one. So yeah, translations, data editor, we can choose any language. Oops. English. And then we really don't have to, but we'll choose it. We can select the default channel. So in preview, it will choose that language by default. We hit save, edit. Cool. All right, so we can translate. Okay, let's choose this. For mobile, we'll add a translation saying, let's pretend my location was a massive text field. Because of the width of your screen, we only want it to be maximum 10 characters. So we can say maximum 10 characters here. My location. Cool, we'll hit save. If you do remember as well, we can choose between label, error, and default. Label is what you'll see as a label. Error is if an error occurs. Default will be your defined value based on what you've configured in your step. So we choose save. Oops, did I change the channel there? I don't think I did. Did I? Oh yeah, I did. Great, cool. All right, let's preview again.
What exactly is the error?
Error is validation. So if you have regex on there or you've got validation configured in your property, if any of those issues occur, then error will be your error message.
Okay.
Yeah. Preview. Well, based on our precondition, we wouldn't see it anyway. So we need to change it to mobile. Then we hit save. Oh, no. Response. No, what did I translate? It was my location, right? Okay, so get weather info, then restart. Okay, so that should have worked. Let me quickly double check. Language, of course. So one thing I forgot to do there was configure the locale. Now that we have a language, it should show the translation. Weather lookup. Yeah, cool, there you go. Based on the mobile channel, we can now see that specific translation. All right, error messages, quickly show. Yeah, cool. All right, so based on our translation, let's say if we wanted maximum 10 characters, if you do remember, inside your property in data editor, we have very basic validation options. One of them will be minimum and max, well, the only one will be minimum and maximum. So I could say minimum 2 characters, maximum 10 characters for our location. Minimum 2 because we can add a country code. But for example, if we were on a mobile screen and portrait, you wouldn't want the user to enter too much information. So we can set a maximum.
You're in daylight hours.
Oh, I'm in the wrong property. Thank you, Gal. I'm going to switch back to my location. Cool. Probably done that last week. But yeah. So we return to where we were before, and easily we just choose the channel to mobile, and then label to error. Cool. And then now, when I hit save and then try to add more than 10 characters, we should see our error message. State. By the way, I didn't need to open state there. I'm just used to doing that. But London, metric, submit. Oops, I wasn't meant to go through the journey. Restart. Put anything there. There you go. So if well, pretty hard to tell now, but if I didn't add a translation for that error message, you'll see something similar to dot notation above, saying hp.weatherlookup.get weather information dot my location dot error message. But now that we've added a translation, we now can see a more prettier version of an error message, which is pretty much how we do that. Default, did I do default? Probably not. Let me do a quick default translation. So again, you can probably guess it. If you wanted to specify default value, you can do that here. We click my location, we do default, static, dynamic will basically be a rule, and it will be a precondition. So it will only validate if it's true. In other words, you may not have as much freedom as defining a default value compared to the business rule, but for some reason, I'm not sure why, you have to use a precondition here. Probably because it needs to be validated before anything happens to your value, as in before it can be shown to the user. Okay, I'm going to choose static. and then we'll hit save. So basically anything now that the user will have entered in the past will be ignored and it will be replaced with our default value. I don't need to preview yet. So we've got translations, edit, True Sofia, Bulgaria. Save. Now, I'm not sure if it pre-populates it for the user, but we'll see. We'll have a look up. Am I on the right channel? I am. So a good thing about preview, it will save your UI client configuration until you log out properly. I'm not sure. But let me restart. Where is it? Yeah, there you go. We've got a default field. It's populated. Saves the user time unless you wanted the user not to enter something. Then this will be a good example of how we can use a default value. All right. Cool. Any questions, Victoria or Gal? No?
So what doesn't if I define the value, but I don't define it, it's like static.
It will be ignored.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be ignored. Yeah, because in order for you to apply the whole dynamic or static, you need to tick the checkbox. If you don't tick it, then yeah, it's probably going to ignore it. Yeah. Victoria, any questions?
No.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we'll continue. So we have, okay, so what we covered? So we covered a new business rule. They are pretty straightforward. We've covered transforms, we've viewed work streams, deploying, channels. By the way, as well, channels can be used in the application flow. Another great example, you can have a shorter journey for mobile, but a longer journey for desktop, depending on what you want. But yeah, it's just another example of how we can use channels. Shadow streams. Now, any questions, any requests on shadow streams, Gal, before we move forward, because I've been playing around with it a lot. What is shadow streams? As in, what exactly is? Never heard of it? No?
No.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm surprised. Okay. So basically, shadow streams is the technology gone behind the integrate section. Previously, it was called Shadow Connect in version 4.1. Shadow Connect, I'll show you a quick example because we do have a 4.1, as in currently it's 4.2. We can view that by clicking on the synchronous logo. But yeah, we do have a previous environment, which was referred to as 4.1. And then that will be the environment called Master 41 or Master 41. Basically, Shadow Connect was utilizing Mule as a MuleSoft to enable integrations and configuration. The problem with Shadow Connect is that the user will need a specialist or someone that is up to date with Mule to help with the configuration of something that should be really simple for a user to use. What will happen is that the user will have some sort of configuration for your service on Beekeeper, but when it came to actually implementing the actual mapping, someone like an integration expert will literally have to take the file, open up MuleSoft, add the required files, make sure that JSON is correct. Error messages will be harder to debug. It'll be a bit of a problem because the whole point of Journey Creator is to allow or give power for the user to configure connections to integrations as much as possible. I'll show you how that worked before showing you how it works now. Okay, so I'm going to open up a new environment called Master 41. And then we currently use this environment for testing. It wouldn't last long because, of course, 4.2 will be the standardized environment moving from now on. So to prove that we are on version 4.1, I'm going to click on the logo. So version 4.1.0, cool. And then we have a similar application here, which is the House Kitchen, or the old version of House Kitchen. Okay, now we have configuration here, not there, here. And then at the moment, what a user would have done is added a service provider, which is standard. A service provider is basically a name that we give to our services. But past this point can be a bit complex, because what will happen is we need to import our services. What does that really mean? I'm going to show you exactly what we had to import. So I'm going to open up my Finder. Let's find it ironically. And then I'm going to show you an example of a Shadow Connect file. So I'll go training. All right, so what a user would have done is requested someone to help, or if they had knowledge. I mean, not many people have knowledge of this. Yeah, so what they would have done is to configure this Shadow Connect file, which would be uploaded as a zip. And then after that, it's only then you can map your properties. Now, that's a bit tedious, because if I open one of these files, a user shouldn't really need to see this. The most important file in the Shadow Connect file will be the configuration file. I'll show you a quick example of how it looks like. But yeah, all of this would have had to be done manually, repackaged, rezipped, and uploaded for Beekeeper to explode it, as in program terms. And then only once that's happened, you can then map your properties. So rather than doing all of that, what they've done, they've removed MuleSoft, and they made it a lot easier for anyone that isn't really that technical, or anyone that doesn't have any experience with MuleSoft, to connect to APIs, pretty much. And then that's basically shadow streams. So if I was to map, pretty much this is how far it goes with version 4.1, but I'm going to get rid of it now. I'm going to switch to version 4.2. Oops, I need to choose an application. Get rid of that. Yeah, now you've got plenty of different options. All you saw there in that JSON file is basically here. Well, not the values, but the configuration, which basically allows the user to save a lot of time and a lot of headache configuring APIs. So since we already configured one in our previous exercise or session, Open Weather Map will be the service. Invocations will be current weather and get weather. Then we need to map. But yeah, shadow streams is basically an easier way to do that. Now, with shadow streams at the moment, with this current version, we can map to, so we can configure REST API calls, so post requests and get requests. We cannot configure put at the moment. Some of our clients do require that. It is being implemented, so you'll see it very soon. Delete as well will be implemented on our next sprint, which will be very, very soon. But yeah, RESTful API calls will be, or can be used with shadow streams. XML configuration for SOAP as well, we can connect to SOAP. We can do it similarly to REST. At the moment, we can't set a SOAP header, but that'll be implemented soon. Basic authentication, some APIs such as Twilio is a good example. Twilio is basically an SMS API. They require authentication, and one way to do that is by using basic auth, which is a header that will be sent with credentials. With this current version, we can configure that. We can also configure query params, similarly to Shadow Connect or integrate in 4.1. We can also configure URI params as well, as in parameters in between your URLs. In the future, there will be an ability to set headers, because that is probably the most popular request from clients. Well, yeah, we can't really move forward until that's implemented. But yeah, it's at an early stage, so these features will be implemented soon. So in our last session, we did configure a GET request. We did this by using query params. What we can do now is show you how to configure a POST request. Very simple. I'm going to post a body, and we're going to get a response. We don't need to do all of the configuration from scratch because I already have a model. But we are going to use a mocking tool called YMock, which is great for testing APIs. And you can literally test anything with that. So to create this post request, I'm going to switch back and I'm going to show you a completely different application called House Kitchen. So you probably had a brief look at this. Very massive. Parts of this journey is configured with YMock or another tool called MockLab, which is another mocking tool. But yeah, I'm going to show you how I can post a request body and receive a response using shadow streams. So we have, what do we have here? We have our broadband journey. And then to make it easier, I'm glad to show you this actually. I'm going to show you the Lumen version of this application. So I'm going to show you this in the front end. But of course, in order for me to do that, I need to push the right right application to the right environment. So let's see where we are. I'm going to switch to Visual Studio Code. Wrong way. Get rid of that. Okay, so we are on App Engine ID 1003 on the UAT environment. Fine. All right, so I need to push or sign in as 1003. Currently, there isn't no indicator for a user to tell which environment they are currently on unless I hit preview. So I can do that now. But thankfully, we are logged in with the right user and we've pushed our model to 1003, which basically means that if I refresh our application on the front end, we should see the House Kitchen journey. What is House Kitchen? How is the way it communicates with Journey Creator, the way other clients could communicate with Lumen as well. They can be using How. The name plays on Hell's Kitchen in New York. How, you probably know what HAL is, but yeah, apparently HAL's an evil computer. But yeah, so we call it House Kitchen, but it's basically just to test the power of Lumen and of Journey Creator. Also seen as the most powerful model. By the way, so we have the House Kitchen journey, and I'm going to choose Broadband journey. The first step will be check availability. So it's going to ask us to enter our postcode and our number. This is actually connected to the BT live API, so not to a fake API. So we should receive a result. So I'm going to enter this current postcode in London, which would be, I think, yeah, W55SL in Ealing. And then the number, as you can see here, is required. If you do remember, we can set fields to be required, mandatory, disabled, hidden, all in our step profile. I'm going to put in any random number. Okay. And then we should receive a response. Currently, the response isn't matching the postcode because we were using it for testing purposes. But yeah, we're currently working on it. The most important thing here is how we did it. We sent a post request, not a GET request because of the way the API works. I'm going to show you the step. It will be in this feature called BB or Broadband Check Availability. And we have a service head called address search. Now, to view where we added that service, we can either explore it and integrate, or we can look at the step to see where it is. Cool, so it'll be API call, BT integration, consumer product, address search. So I'm gonna edit that mapping or view the mapping. Where is it? Oh God, I forgot already. Products. Not that one. BT integration, my bad. Yep, there you go, address search. Now, previously we were using the request params object because in OpenWeatherMap, it was specified as a query in the URL, so it would be specified through query parameters. So in order for us to map data, we had to use a request params object. But now, since we are sending a body of information, as in a request JSON body, we will need to use the request mapping. So we edit this, and as you can see, our input is quite large because we have a very large application, but we're only mapping two properties here, postcode and number. How do we actually do this? If I change, no, actually, let me show you how it will look like in MockLab or YMock probably. Let's see. Cool, there you go. All right, so in order for us to receive a response, we do need to match the request. Some of these do not have a body as a necessity, but we should have a body called, or a mapping called training. There you go. And in YMock, we can add rules that we need to match. So what we just done here is added a postcode and we got these results back. But to make more sense, as in using a request body mapping rather than a request for us mapping, we will use the training API. So we will map or find a mapping towards this mapping here. And we'll send the information to receive this JSON body back. So what does this mean? Basically, I'm going to visit Journey Creator. I'm going to find the right feature. I'm going to find the right step. I'm going to enter a hardware ID, which needs to match this pattern, which is regex. And also I'm going to enter the conditions of our trading, which will be from a drop down, which will be easier. But once we match, as in match the JSON path, if everything's okay, then we should receive this body. And we can use YMock or MockLab to test post requests too. All right, so we have BT trading or BB trading here somewhere. Cool. All right, so let's see. I'm going to enter. Let's see if we can return this specific mapping back. To make more sense, I'm going to get you to remember the phone that's been returned back, and it will be Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge in gold and 64 gigabytes of storage. All right, I'm going to switch back to the model. Previewed it now. We find trading check. Our first step is trading. And in order for us to trade in our phone, for example, we need to give it the IMEI number or the IMEI number or the hardware ID. And it'll be 15 digits, but we do need to match our regex or our pattern. Otherwise, we will not see this response. Okay, so it says we need 3543 and any numbers, any of 11 numbers between 0 to 9 after that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 11 more digits will be 15 digits. But we do need 3543 before that for us to receive a Samsung phone. The conditions as well need to be poor, otherwise we may receive a different phone. Okay, so to prove that, I'm going to choose a different condition and a different hardware ID number. So we choose 3544, and then that should return something completely different. We hit submit. What do we get back is, we get back information from an iPhone, not Samsung. This is a great example as well as how Lumen has been enhanced. As in the preview, we can now see images, we can now see more content in there. This will be expanded soon. But yeah, we've got the wrong information. So that proves that we are sending a request body, but it doesn't prove that we are receiving the right response. So how do we do that? Very easy. We just enter the right information. So I'm going to restart the journey. And then BB trading check. Our first step will be trading, but this time I'm going to match the pattern. If you do remember, 3543, and then any number after that. Oops, done it already. And then the condition should be poor. Submit. Cool, let's see. Great, so we get our assets in gold, and it's the Edge version. To prove that, here's a name. Then there's a name. Great. So yeah, that's basically how we can send a post request. We use request instead of request params. We can even use both. Some APIs can require a parameter or parameters with a request and a body. I don't think they will require both most of the time, but yeah, we can use both for WireMock, for example. Cool. So SOAP will work exactly the same way. Let's see what the time is. We've got 20 minutes left. SOAP will be, well, I'm not going to show you exactly how it will be done because it's pretty much the same way. But there are requirements. For example, in version 4.2, your SOAP body needs to be wrapped around this envelope. Otherwise, if you've got a different version here or different configuration here, it's not going to work with the current version of Journey Creator. So if you are watching this, please take a note of how this format is represented, because there's different types of formats with SOAP apparently. That isn't fully implemented in the current version of Journey Creator. But for example, to prove that we can actually integrate with a SOAP mapping, I'm going to view this API. I want to go to the credit check step so we can return this information here. That information comes from a previous client. So we do credit check. Actually, let's go through the journey here. It'll be easier. So, SIM-only journey. And then we choose a plan. A very nice Lumen template, which was configured by one of the product specialists. We enter our information. Oh God, you got my postcode there as well. Get rid of that. There's no point now. Cool. That should be building number. But yeah, we can easily change that in translations. Cool. And then we need our address for the credit check. We need to match the format. If we do add a different format, it's not going to work. Let's try this. I've been in the address from 1990. Incorrect, but cool. It's populating our name because our first name and our last name has been added together using a business rule. And also, if you do remember, wherever you enter early on in the journey will be saved in the state or in our journey ID. But to continue, I'm going to enter random information here. We'll just choose how many zeros? No, okay, probably a different format. I'm going to leave it blank. Do we need that? No, it's not required. But anyway, if you get 8-digit, okay. Cool. All right, there's a lot of information here, but basically on our application flow, I'm going to show you it. If, for example, we pass a credit check, we'll eventually finish the journey. And we shouldn't even get to the step because we are going to pass the journey. Let's see. All right, complete order, all done. So let's see. This may not be a great example because it's not actually making sense. I haven't actually added any valid information. Some of this data is made up, but it's just to show you how the journey will run and to show you if there are any API calls, what has been mapped to the API call, and how we execute it using the integrate section. So in SIMO, credit check, we've got a service here, should be renamed to be easier to read. Yeah, API Simone, credit check, credit check. To wrap this up, I'm gonna view the SOAP mapping. Simone, credit check. So a requirement, I think SOAP needs a request and SOAP needs a response. Response, as you can see here, we've got this envelope and then the response will be inside of it. We should show you in WireMock where our mapping is held. This is the result, we get that back. To prove that we got it back, we managed to finish the journey. But yeah, that's basically how a SOAP mapping will be done. It's very similar to a REST API call. Yeah, in the future, there'll be more options, of course, added to SOAP. All right, what's the time? 15 minutes there. Cool. Any questions so far? No? All right, so transient data. A very new feature that has been added to 4.2. For example, eventually clients will be using Journey Creator for, well, I'll show you a list, it'll be a lot easier. But yeah, transient data basically gives us the option for a user to select how long a value will remain in a journey, or how long the value will remain in the database. A great example would be for PCI compliance. For example, if you're entering car details, you want the values to be held there for a certain amount of time. We can give the option for a user to indefinitely hold it, as in just keep it there, or we can allow the user to set the value to be passed through, which basically doesn't touch the database. So we enter a car number, but rather than storing it in the database, it wouldn't even go near there, basically. Because we're given a setting on the property to make it pass through. In other words, yeah, don't store it. Cool, so I'll show you how that's done. It's very easy, very quick. I'm gonna switch to a simpler application for speed. Okay, by the way, the more you use Journey Creator, the more slower it will become. I think this is a RAM issue. But yeah, try to get data Normally what I'll do in the morning is I just close the browser, especially if I've got a very large application opened. It can get a bit confused and it can become slower. This is applicable on any single browser type you use, so Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer. But yeah, so apologies for the speed, but I'm going to switch to our weather app. Okay, very slow there. Actually, you know what? I want to keep the same application. On the first step of any journey here, I'm just going to pass through the data. Very easy example. So we'll do it with postcode. So what we'll do is we need to edit the property. And one area that I haven't covered yet is privacy. In your property, you can set the privacy type, so you can make it public, or you can either hide it with masking. For example, you want the user to view a password after submission, so you can mask it with the first 6 characters or the last 6 characters, but you've got your different options here. But going back to transient data, how do we actually handle this? We go back to public, and we have something called the scope. So where the value will travel to. We can say journey, which is basically going to go and store in the database or in the state. Or we could do pass-through, saying that we don't want this information anywhere near the state or the journey. And once we're done, get rid of it. So at the moment, we enter a postcode and then we receive a response. So what if we wanted to not save the postcode value and still receive a response? Or what if you wanted to enter a car number, a sort code, and not keep that information? How do we do that? We literally do pass-through. So we switch to pass-through, or select pass-through, and then we hit save. Now what should happen is if I preview and enter the postcode, we shouldn't see that information in the state. So check availability, postcode eligibility. All right, I'm gonna enter a postcode here. This is the old Dixon's car phone postcode in Acton. Any number. And if you notice, what should happen is that, okay, so we do see postcodes here because this is the result, and this is hard-coded. But we still see postcode there. But what we shouldn't see, this probably is a bad example. Okay, let me do another application. Not to confuse you, I'll make it a bit more clearer. So let me just undo what I've just done, because many people will be viewing this application. Apologies. It'll be a lot easier to see on a very basic application with not many properties on there. But basically, I saw it on that state. We didn't see the postcode that we entered. Let me change it back. And we will choose, okay. Apologies here. Yeah, CPU is sky high. All right, eventually made it. We'll choose a simple application. We will choose the one that we did. Our first feature, what do we have here? Get with information. All right, let's hide the location. So we'll edit, not here, oops. We'll do it in data editor, request, my location, edit. As you can see, much faster experience because of the size of the application, but we'll choose privacy. And then we'll choose pass-through. We hit save. App builder. Preview. I want to view the state, allocation, metric. Oh, what's the problem there? Ah, our default value goes against our validation. So we need to remove it. Sophia, metric, submit. Now we shouldn't see my location anywhere in our state. Let's find it, my location. But we can search for humidity. Yeah, so it's hidden. That's what basically translating data in the future does. It basically allows the user or the user of the platform to avoid information being passed to the state. Cool. All right, this one's a bit complex. Have we got time? All right, so for the rest of the list, I'm going to summarize it for you. With this current version of Journey Creator, we can also raise something called a BPE. BPEs, actually I can take 2 of those off the list in 2 minutes. I'm going to show you quickly. So BPEs are business process events. For example, if you enter the wrong information, you can send an event to the user or the client stating that a 400 error or bad request. We can literally send pop-ups or events to the user based on the information entered. So we can do this by raising a BPE. We can use a rule to do that. We have a block to do that as well. It will be in actions, so it'll be at the top. So yeah, so we can say if user enters the wrong location, raise BPE. BPEs can be configured in data editor. I'm going to show you that quickly. And then we can choose a BPE from that drop down in that block, but we can create a rule based on that. So we can say if blah, 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 raise this event. So we add a new one. We can say wrong info. So yeah, when you add that block, you can choose wrong info, for example, and then it will be shown to the user as a pop-up in the journey. So that's basically how we raise business process events. They can also be configured more, or configuration will be added towards that, but yeah, I'll leave it as that for now. Contentful or .cms, we can also integrate with a CMS. I don't know if I showed you last week, but we can choose from images from a CMS. Great example will be if I was to add a new property to our application called Donald Trump. I'll show you one, named it Donald Trump. And I'll write in caps. So we can literally put the image of Donald Trump into our journey. We choose the image type. We add it to our rule, our step. Select it. And then we choose default. And then select image. I've previously uploaded some images here, but we can choose from the CMS as the content management system, greatly enhancing the extensibility for the platform. Some people may want to use WordPress, any other CMS. There's apparently a pattern that you can use in Journey Creator to integrate with these type of services. I'm going to choose Donald Trump. And then when I preview, you got a preview there, but when I preview the journey, should be in there. There you go. That's how we can use a CMS, or Contentful is what we just used. By the way, as well, I know we're closing soon, but when you've uploaded a template through Lumen, we can also edit it. Previously, we couldn't, so we can actually edit the code rather than deleting it, re-uploading it again. But basically, throughout these past 2 hours, I've basically shown you how Lumen has been enhanced. Rich media and a great example of rich media will be an image. But yeah, that's more of a passive feature rather than how to do it. But yeah, as a summary, I'm going to end it here. I'm glad you enjoyed it. This is more of an intermediate advanced area of Journey Creator. Most important thing out of this area will be shadow streams. We've seen how easy it is to implement or connect to APIs compared to how it was with Shadow Connector 4.1. Any questions before we cut? If you do have any questions in the future, feel free to email me. This session has been recorded. It'll be posted to the DXP YouTube channel. But yeah, glad you enjoyed it. Victoria, all good?
Yeah, I will join the call next week for sure, because I would need to hear it as well. Will you send us the recordings?
Yeah, sure. I'll create.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, no worries. One thing I haven't done is create a playlist. I'll create it for you, and it will be shareable through YouTube as well. So
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye.
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 No problem.
I have shadows